I liked also when LL Cool J was inside the oven. He's like, "Oh hell no, I'm not going out this way." So he starts.
I'm
he
not
starts.
Daniel with the lion. It is October 5th, and today we are covering a movie, a classic, in my opinion, Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is just something about this movie, just so much nostalgia, so much, just such a flashback. I loved marine animals a lot when I was growing up, and sharks especially were awesome. I mean, what kid doesn't love sharks? But
Sharks, Jaws, all that.
yeah, just I love sharks. So this movie came out when I was pretty young. Let me find the year real quick. But this was a movie that really inspired me to want to be a marine biologist when I was young. Didn't end up happening. Spoiler alert. Real life spoiler alert. But I really, really loved this movie. And it was one of the first horror films that I ever actually got to watch and rent with my parents at Blockbuster. I don't know why. You know, they had a hard time letting me watch rated R films, but for whatever reason, this was okay. And
Probably because it had Samuel L. Jackson and LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. Yeah, so this movie came out in 1999, and it is just I'd classify it under just like a creature feature, like a sci-fi horror film.
Around the same time period, wasn't there? They had a whole bunch of like creature features coming out, like
We had like
Placid, Anaconda, yeah.
Yeah, so this movie is awesome though. Before we get into today's episode, do want to remind everybody the best way to support us to go over to patreon.com/thecalvincam. It really helps us out. Join one of our 3 tiers, help donate to the show. Also, you could just, go down, look down, and there's a subscribe button down below. Hit that subscribe button, help us out. Join the community. Hit us up. Now back into the episode. Deep Blue Sea. So this film stars Thomas Jane, Saffron Burrows, Samuel L. Jackson, Jacqueline Mackenzie, Michael Rappaport. I always forget.
There it was Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, I can't. And Stellan Skarsgård, which I forgot until I just recently watched.
I haven't watched this movie. Like, I know about this movie. I just never watched it. I know I always hear that reference. It's a shark movie with LL Cool J in it. And I'm just like, do I want to watch this movie?
You do want to watch this movie because
I do want to watch
badass.
It. So, yeah, you got me. See, the thing is, I showed you Leviathan. You showed me Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
I knew about this movie, but I never watched it.
So this movie, yeah. So how did you feel? Let's start with you. How did you feel watching this movie? Like,
this movie was really entertaining. Honestly, it has its campiness too. It also has its comedic elements with like Michael Rappaport and Thomas Jane, which if anyone knows who Thomas Jane is, he was in The Punisher. He was the Punisher.
He was and always will be one of my favorite Punishers.
Yeah. So he's like a marine biologist, whatever. And the other guy's kind of like an engineer, like Michael Rappaport's character is like an engineer. And I thought that just those comedic elements. I also love the comedic elements of LL Cool J with his bird, since he's the cook, and how he, the whole thing when he's trying to escape that shark that's inside the kitchen.
Yeah.
Also, the most memorable part of this movie, I mean, is one of the best parts of this movie is when Samuel L. Jackson is trying to, because he's been through extreme conditions and he's like the CEO of this company, like he tries to inspire everybody, like lift them up at this one moment in the movie, and all of a sudden the shark comes in and just fucking eats him.
Yeah.
And boom, he's dead.
It's such a great moment. And it's funny to me, this movie is very much reminiscent of like Jurassic Park. And so it's funny to have Samuel L. Jackson in it, but it's just what it is like it's a haunted house movie. You know what I mean?
It is.
Like it's a contained creature feature reminiscent to Jurassic Park. Scientists do some experiments on animals.
It goes
It
bad.
goes bad, and only a few make it out.
I like the whole premise about the research of like trying to cure Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
like with her research. Like the story in this movie is kind of really, I mean, as campy as this horror movie is, it really has a really well balanced story, and it the pacing in this movie is not too bad. It's actually pretty good, and how the content of the story is presented to you is really well done.
I also think that this film has some really great shots. I think that there are plenty of really, really beautiful ways that they use the camera in this film, as well as just like the score with the violins is like really, really striking to your ears. So when the sharks are creeping, or like they're in a situation that's like very eerie, like you hear that ding, 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 like the violin, and it's very, very it's very cool. But another thing that I really, really love about this film is the practical effects. Yes, there is a lot of CGI in it, but there's a good amount of practical sharks in this movie. And I don't know how they pulled it off, but because I know the disaster that was Jaws, like Jaws is like, that's a top tier film. That's one of the best films ever created. And the production on Jaws was so straining on the entire crew, because Bruce the shark was like constantly malfunctioning. They didn't know, they were using animatronics in water for one of the first times ever, and it's just like it just wasn't happening. So we were lucky that we were able to get the movie that we did with Jaws. But this is really cool because like most of the sharks, especially interior shark scenes, were very practical, like, and it added a sense of realism. I watched this movie with my son last night, and it was awesome. Like he was just like, "Oh my God, is he gonna get the bird? Is he?" And he really liked LL Cool J a lot. It was funny. But yeah, so I don't think we did a like basic rundown of the plot. Spoiler alert, here we go. Plot is they're trying to cure Alzheimer's. They experiment on sharks. For whatever reason, the main scientist, she lets the shark go after an accident with Stellan Skarsgård's character, where he gets his arm ripped off by one of the sharks they were experimenting on. What's his name? Thomas
Jane.
Thomas Jane. He goes to shoot the shark. She releases the shark, and then there they are on this terrible, terrible street of everything collapsing. Basically, what ends up happening is the sharks are so smart at this point that they use Stellan Skarsgård as a way to break the facility and break like they grab him as he's chained to the helicopter.
He's in this gurney.
In the gurney. They pull him underwater. The sharks pull him underwater to pull the helicopter into the facility. And this is all done on purpose because the sharks are that smart. That's how they make it in
the
this
thing
film.
is they've been doing research on it, and they've been injecting like steroids or some sort of something to stimulate their brain, their brain neurology or whatever, to enhance them, make them a smarter creatures.
Yeah, and it's funny because throughout the film they do reference this question that like, what does a 80-foot long shark think about, or 8,000-pound shark think about, or whatever. I forget what they say exactly, but they say this question and they reference it through the whole film until you get to the end of the film, and Thomas Jane's like, freedom, because literally he makes this realization that the whole facility underwater is titanium. It's all like really, is a prison. But above the water, the 12 feet of fence that they have is just plain chain fence, nothing bad. So the whole plot is these sharks are sinking this facility in order for them to be into the deep blue sea, the open water. And so from the very beginning, with the helicopter intentionally smashing it into the facility, to flood the facility. And then they take the Stellan Skarsgård's character and they smash the window open, flooding the facility from beneath also. So they're just trying to literally just take this whole thing down.
And sink it slowly.
So, and while, also being animals trying to eat all the people at the same time. Because some of there's 3 sharks and 2 of them are small enough to actually go in the facility. And so it's cool. There's a lot of really cool scenes. I love the fact that a shark is hunting them in the halls. I think that is it shouldn't work, but it does.
I liked also when LL Cool J was inside the oven. He's like, "Oh hell no, I'm not going out this way." So he starts.
Daniel with the lion.
Yeah, he starts. I forget if he's got like a cleaver or he's got a fire axe.
Fire axe. Just
and
a
he's
little
just
kitchen
smashing
fire axe.
into he's smashing into the top of the oven, and the shark's turning the oven on. So he's starting to cook. He's like, I have to get out of this situation that I'm in, and it's just funny how he gets out of that situation. And there's all that comic elements of him. You ate my bird.
You ate my bird, and then he throws the lighter.
Yeah. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's a fun film. There's a couple unexpected turns. You'd think a lot of these characters, the way that they actually show you a lot of these characters, you think a lot of them are going to make it out, or certain ones will make it out other than more than others. For instance, the main girl, I thought that she was for sure going to survive. I thought she was the main character of this film. Nope.
Yeah. It's kind of like the reverse. You thought she was going to make it out and LL Cool J was going to be the one that was going to die. But LL Cool J is the one that lives and she dies.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's funny.
Yeah. And then, by the end of the film, you have this fantastic hip hop rap track by LL Cool J where he's like, deepest, bluest, my hand is like a shark's fin.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's not done much anymore. It is kind of a certain, just artists making tracks for movies.
Yeah, it's a rarity. I don't feel like it happens as much. It's more composers, Hans Zimmer, etc.
But that's the kind of time period that was in the 80s and
the 80s and 90s.
The 80s and 90s and late 90s. I don't know for sure if it kind of fell off in the 2000s, but
I hardly, I'm sure that the trend is there here and there, but I just vaguely remember certain films. So, but I know that it happened a lot in the 90s. Maybe I'm not sure about the 80s. I didn't grow up in that era, but
no, it did in the 80s.
Yeah, but in the 90s for sure, a lot of films. So yeah, that's Deep Blue Sea. That's that in a nutshell. This movie, if you like shark movies, if you like haunted house movies, contained movies, this is 100% worth your time. You're going to have a great time with this film. Me personally, I love this film. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. This is an all-time film for me. This is easily in my top 100 films of all time. So
it's a 5 out of 5 for you?
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
It's for me, this is I'll give it a 4. I was really entertained by this movie. The characters are great. The comedic elements are great. This movie is really well paced. The story, just the way it's presented and the acting with it, really good. It's a 4. Critically acclaimed. I'm sure it's not that high. I'm sure it's like a 2 or a 1. But just it's an entertaining movie to watch, and sometimes it's a horror movie. So horror movies like this, they're made creature features. They're made to be entertaining.
Exactly.
So yeah, 4 out of 5. Going back to, I wanted to mention this with artists making tracks. Big Trouble in Little China was actually made by John Carpenter, did the soundtrack and stuff. I just wanted to mention it before we moved on. It happened a lot more in the 80s, and it's just cool that happened in this movie as well.
Yeah. All right. So before we end our episode today, I have a couple of fun facts for you. For one scene, Thomas Jane had to swim alongside a real live shark. He was only allowed to shoot this once. Once he had completed all of his other scenes. So this was that was the last scene that he did.
That's cool.
So And which I totally see, because they definitely used a lot of practicality in this. There is CGI in this movie, but like there's a lot of practical.
Well, there's
effects.
there's that scene where he's swimming in the beginning, and then the end when he's trying to get away and not
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's
wonder-
riding the shark. I think wasn't it the ending? Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he
riding
was
the shark.
riding the shark. And I think that the Meg obviously was inspired by this movie. So, let's see. At around 9 minutes into the film, the license plate pulled from the shark's teeth is the same one found in the tiger shark in Jaws. So that's a cool Easter egg.
I love Easter egg references from the same genre of film. You know what I mean? Those are always good to find.
This was the first movie Stephen King saw after his nearly fatal encounter with a van. He stated, "My first trip after being smacked by a van and almost killed was to the movies. I went in my wheelchair and loved every minute of it."
See, like they don't have to be critically acclaimed. They
They're
need
just
to be It needs to be
entertaining.
entertaining and have comedic values.
Samuel L. Jackson happily signed on to this film, as he had enjoyed his experience working with Rennie Harlan on The Long Kiss Goodnight in 1996.
I think that movie. Isn't Gina Davis in that movie? I think so. I could be wrong.
At around 50 minutes, the Gen 2 Mako, the Mako shark, is described as 45 feet long and 8,000 pounds. That would make it more than 3 times the length and 4 times heavier than the largest Mako shark ever recorded, and twice the size of the largest known great white. Big shark.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get you a good one. Let's see. Special effects team headed by Walt Conti spent 8 months on the animatronic sharks. The number one thing about capturing sharks is getting their energy. They're always cruising kind of slowly, and they snap and just go with this incredible burst of energy. In that way, most of the time, sharks are somewhat lethargic. So probably our biggest challenge was replicating the speed and energy for those lungs. Also, a shark's jaws actually float in their skull, giving them a specific kind of motion. As far as I know, we're the first animatronics team to totally mimic the multifaceted jaw of the shark. So that's cool.
That's pretty interesting.
Let's see. Thomas Jane is actually afraid of sharks in real life. He said his fear of sharks came from watching Jaws. This is funny too. Samuel L. Jackson was interested in marine biology in college before becoming an actor.
Just like you, Siege.
Yeah, it's just funny. This was Thomas Jane's breakout performance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because then he went on to make the Punisher later.
Yeah, he made The Punisher, and he was in The Mist with Stephen King. Yeah, Thomas Jane's a great actor.
Yeah, he does a lot of like B grade films now. I think he's like kind of.
I mean, he does what he does what he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing with him. That's how he's always been. He was also in Boogie Nights. If you remember,
I don't remember.
But he was like a side character. Like, I vaguely like recognize him. But I know this was like his first like major role. Yeah. He's. I'm looking at his filmography right now. Yeah, he's just in a lot of B grade movies, like movies I've never heard of.
He was in this one I recently watched, just like a vampire movie. I can't remember the name of it.
He was in The Predator.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's been in a couple movies over the past couple of years, but just nothing like. Well, looks like a lot of these movies aren't like theatrical releases, but Okay, that's gonna be it for today's episode, though. That's all the fun facts I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I highly recommend watching Deep Blue Sea. It's really, really great. It's definitely, it has a special place in my heart. So go check that out. But yeah, thank you all for watching the show. Really appreciate you guys. Please hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you on the next episode tomorrow.